No, exactly what Yaunna said. Thank you everyone so much for joining us today, our final panel of the day. And based on what I heard just coming into this, you are in for a ride. So stoked for it. Basically, welcome to Infusion 2021. On behalf of the team and I, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. We are beyond excited for what's in store with this panel. And before we officially kick things off, just some general housekeeping and more. So we'd like to remind everyone, this is a space for one and all. No hate of any kind will be tolerated. And if anything does occur, it will be promptly dealt with, as in it will be flagged and banned. Again, we are here to celebrate and enjoy today. So let's keep that energy going, hey? On behalf of the entire team as well, I would also like to add, we are presenting this festival from the unceded, and if you don't know what that means, it means stolen lands and territories of the Tawasin, Kwantlen, Stolo, Katsi, Coquitlam, Coast Salish, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh First Nations, who have been the stewards of these lands and territories since time immemorial. We offer them our deepest thank you and respects for allowing us to gather here today and celebrate. And we also offer our deepest respects for elders who have passed and all those with us today. But reconciliation does not start or end with us stating kind of the obvious. Reconciliation is something we must put into practice every day. It means implementing the calls to action in the missing and murdered Indigenous women and Two-Spirit and TRC reports in our own lives as settlers and individuals, because the responsibility is not just at a political level, it's also on us at an individual one. We would also like to bring to attention of what the government and RCMP in so-called BC are doing to the territories and land defenders in the Wet'suwet'en territories. If you're able to, we added a link to the chat. You can see it there. You can donate to their legal defense as well as pledge ongoing support. But most importantly, we need to continue to keep all eyes on them. So share those posts and make sure the harm being perpetrated against them does not go unnoticed. And we really hope you all will be able to join us and stand in solidarity with Indigenous land defenders and their allies across Turtle Island. Thank you all so much. I will mute myself and hand over the reins to our lovely moderators, Yaunna and Crystal.
Hello, everybody. So welcome to Debate Club. So we have a few great debate topics ready for today. So I think we're gonna start with our little icebreaker game. We want everybody to participate, the audience, the authors. Me and Yaunna will kind of kick off, and whoever wants to put in their 2 cents. All 4, we love opinions here. So Yaunna, do you want to start it?
Yes. So as I was explaining to our team of awesome panelists and authors here, I was inspired when we were planning this from a book talk of all things. And it was a woman and her husband that were sitting in bed together reading their books. And she looks over to her husband and he's flipping through the book to see how much he has left, but he's not counting the epilogue. And she asked him, "Why aren't you counting the epilogue? Why wouldn't you read that?" And he's like, "Oh, I don't read epilogues. Like, nobody reads them. It's all good. I just need to know how many pages I have left in the actual book, not the epilogue." So the icebreaker is, do you read the epilogue? Why or why not?
And so I'm on the side on, I personally don't read the epilogue, just because I think the endings are, even if it's a cliffhanger, it's great. It gives us suspense, and I'm like, okay, that's good. And if there's a second book, I will start the second book, but I don't see it necessary to read the epilogue. And I never occurred to me that other people read the epilogue. So
you're breaking my author heart.
I will open it for everybody else to debate. I mean, I guess it's not a debate if I'm the only one on this side.
It's stuck on never even could.
Yeah, it's a fun icebreaker to get everybody in the debatey mood. That was the whole point.
That's like a hard no for me on not reading the epilogue. You have to. The epilogue is intended by the author as part of the story. So if you don't read it, why? I think that's just why.
We poured our sweat and tears into that
And
epilogue.
blood.
And blood.
And blood. Acknowledgement. Like I read all the way to the end of the book, all of the words that are in there that aren't
I
like
do too.
right.
Exactly. I mean, I just
Yeah.
finished my next book that's coming out. If you don't read the epilogue, you will miss the best part of the story because I had the most fun writing that epilogue.
Crystal, did you miss it?
Okay. So my thing is, like, I love cliffhangers, I love suspense, but I'm not a curious person. So, like, I can end it and I'm good. I'm content. Like, I will live my best life when I put the book down. And then sometimes people write an epilogue and it's like they hype you up with the next book and there's no next book. Or sometimes the next book is 10 years down the line and I'm like, I can't wait. So, like, my thing is, I will peacefully end the book. If there's a second book, then I probably would go back and like, let me check out the epilogue. But I feel like when I'm reading a book, I don't count the epilogue at the end.
Okay, to be fair, I think epilogues are. Oh, sorry for interrupting.
No.
I was just gonna say, I think epilogues are crucial because I have them in my book. They're part of the story. But before I was an author, as a reader, I also skipped epilogues because in my mind, they're like, if you've watched a Marvel movie, you know, there's like the end credits and then like the last few scenes. That's how I initially viewed epilogues as well. So as a reader, I used to skip epilogues all the time. So I'm like, okay, the story is over. The epilogue is a wrap up, you know, happily ever after. I don't really care. So I get Crystal's point.
Oh, there's somebody in the comments who asked, do you guys read the prologue?
No, prologues.
Of course.
Not with you.
I mean, I feel like people probably feel different about prologues versus epilogues, right? Because prologues they're introducing the story, they're getting you warmed up for what you're about to read.
Does anybody else just open the book in the middle of the book, and if you like the middle of the book, that's like, okay, like this is gonna be.
Well, it wouldn't make sense if you're in the middle of the book. Like, how would you judge whether you like it or not? You don't know what the story is about. Like, you just start in.
I feel like Sukhmani probably made a mistake putting me on the phone.
I will say sometimes if I'm like in a bookstore and deciding if I want to, sometimes I will like crack it open and like read a sample. So I feel like that's kind of akin to if there's a sample on the back of a book. Sometimes they have that. So I feel like that's not as blasphemous as like the whole book. Although to play devil's advocate and to like, try to be an empathetic person, kind of see if you are also like a creator and you want to like write a fan fiction and knowing the absolute ending will kind of ruin that. Or if the epilogue is like a 20-year jump, like if it's that kind of thing, I understand more why you wouldn't want to read that. Because sometimes I feel like 20-year or 30-year like big time jumps kind of like not ruin the story, but it ends in a way that's like, oh, I didn't need to know what happens to them like that far in the future. So that I understand. So you know what, I'll be gracious and say there's like loopholes.
I love the empathy.
Okay.
Yes, no, I appreciate the empathy. Does anybody have anything to say about epilogues in the comments?
There's quite a few people that say, yes, it's so, Brittany says they're so important, they can give context to the story.
Yes.
So it comes next if there's a sequel. And quite a few people that are saying, yes, I definitely have to read it.
I feel like sometimes, depending on what you're reading, like if I'm reading a rom-com and the ending is kind of like the big, like the same as in a movie where the ending is like them finally getting together, you don't get a revel in a lot of their togetherness during the story. It's all getting there. So I always kind of love the chapter at the end where you're like, oh, look, they're watching TV or whatever it may be. It's just like, oh, look at them to just enjoy the ship for a moment before it's over,
Yeah.
Okay, I might be converted after this. I think I might be starting to read epilogues. I honestly, it just never occurred to me to read the epilogue, but I have been misinformed. So I think this was a great icebreaker. I loved hearing everybody's thoughts and opinions. I am now converted, so I will join this team.
Rhiannon, I just wanted to make sure, I think you were trying to say something earlier. Was there anything that you wanted to jump in with?
Oh, I was just saying that like when I was younger, I didn't read epilogues, but that was only because I didn't know what they were. And then when I got older, I was like, wait a second, it's like a continuation of the book. And then now that I write books, like sometimes it is like a 20-year jump or something like that, but other times it really is just like rounding out the ending, and it can still be a cliffhanger. It's just that little extra like after the main course, if you will. It's almost like dessert. And if you don't like dessert, that's fine. But like, I like dessert.
That's a great analogy.
Yes. So
I'm so glad that this icebreaker got everybody in a good debating mood. This is awesome.
So I think we're gonna take a little bit of a break. Authors are gonna head a little bit so we can discuss the first debate topic, and Sukhmani will be doing this remotely. But we will be back, and she will keep you entertained until then.
Hello, one and all. Thank you for staying with me. Unfortunately, my camera's not working right now, but basically authors are in break rooms right now. They get 1 minute to discuss the debate topic, which at this time is friends to lovers or enemies to lovers. I'm gonna tell you right now, personally, I am definitely 100% enemies to lovers. Feel free to unmute yourselves and let me know what you think, but we also have a poll, a couple of them actually. Let me go with this one first. You can let me know in the poll or in the comments. Love to discuss either way, but we'll reveal. Oh my gosh, somebody said friends to lovers. I'm actually shocked. There's more people for. You see, yeah, I also agree that I agree. Brittany, yes, enemies to lovers for sure. Grace, I do agree. It really does depend on if they're like childhood friends or not. I'm not gonna lie, it actually hurts me a bit that friends to lovers is winning. I'm awful. Okay. That totally makes sense. Yeah, when you've had experience in different things, that also definitely changes your perspective on the tropes. Perfect. Okay, I'm gonna end it here because I can see we just got a 50-50 split. Oh my gosh. What if I just end the poll right here? I'm thinking if I end the poll right here before anyone else has a chance, then we'll be like, it's a 50-50 split. So now it's on the debate teams. Extra stress for them, which I love. So these are the end results. We are at a 50-50 split. Team enemies to lovers. I love it. It's okay. They're not under pressure at all, I promise. No, that was great. I'm super stoked to see what kind of arguments they're cooking up. And in the meantime, does anyone have any good book recs for enemies to lovers or friends to lovers? And we can start another list of books we'd all like to get on our TBRs. A good enemies to lover one that I always liked was oh my gosh, why am I not? It's not coming to me. I'm like literally looking at it on my bookshelf right now. But I guess it's a bit Chosen to Fall. That's a really good one. In Graceling. I don't know if anyone's read Graceling before, but let me add it here. Graceling. It's not exactly like thank you. Yay, I'm glad somebody else knows. It's actually one of Crystal's favorite books. So Graceling is not exactly like an enemies to lover, but it's like a mix. Like they're not quite enemies, but they don't also acknowledge each other as friends until later in the book. And then they get to the lover's point. But if there's anything, maybe if you're looking for a mix, you're one of the undecided folks, you can definitely check that one out and it will fulfill all your needs. Lucy, team enemies to lovers. Thank you. Thank you, friend. Sometimes it's like you have too many books to choose from and it's like, what? Okay, I'm going to bring them back. And we'll get this show on the road. Welcome back, friends. Welcome back. I see Team Red is here. Team Blue still is not here. So what's that about?
They need more help than us.
They're taking extra time. Okay, back to you, Yaunna.
Unmute myself. Okay, so we are gonna get started. Dash. Yeah, I guess we win. The first one. I don't know where the blue team is. So we're gonna get started once the blue team joins us. But again, just as a reminder, this first debate and topic is the enemies to lovers trope versus friends to lovers trope. Which one is better and why? Or which one do we prefer and why? All right. Blue team is here. Okay, so again, enemies to lovers versus friends to lovers. Rebecca is going to be representing the red team.
And we have Nafiza representing the blue team. So Nafiza's doing friends to lovers, and Rebecca is doing enemies to lovers. So everybody, write in the comments. We're going to be reading the comments. Put in your 2 cents. We're going to make sure that everybody's heard and everybody has a chance to speak. So if Rebecca wants to start off, we can go from there.
Obviously, enemies to lovers is the best of the 2 tropes. I don't even know if I have to explain more. I mean, I kind of feel like Nafiza's got the hard job beating it, because how can you, as a friend to a lover, get that same delicious naughty tension that you get in enemies to lovers? And who doesn't like reading naughty tension? Like, that is what YA is all about, correct? Come on, in the comments, back me up here. Who is watching enemies to lovers? Raise your hands in the comments, please. Come on, Nafiza. How can you disagree with that? And one of my team reds had a really good, also it's not named after me, but I wish it was. One of my team reds had a good point that in friends to lovers, you kind of lose the friendship because it goes from friends to being romantically involved. But enemies to lovers, you got to discover the friendship as well as the romance to make it happen. So, I mean, enemies to lovers is win-win-win all around. So.
Okay, Nafiza, do you want to put in your 2 cents? I think you're muted.
I forgot I was muted. Okay.
Okay.
So my point is, your point is, so from enemies to friends to lovers. So you're basically sabotaging yourself right now.
No, not enemies to friends to lovers, but in a relationship, you got to have it.
So my point is, first of all, let me disclaim. There's nothing wrong with enemies to lovers, okay? It is delicious fun. But as I pointed out in the breakout room, you do, enemies to lovers is more a fling than a happily ever after. Because, imagine relationships as a fire. It won't be an inferno all the time. You need a steady flame, and you get a steady flame when the foundation of your relationship is friendship. And June brought up the fact that friendship is rooted in respect for each other. So if you are friends with each other, you will respect each other, and that as a foundation is necessary for any relationship. Plus, there's this other point that Rhiannon brought up, that friends to lovers is more real life than fiction. So there are people who say Darcy-esque, but how many times can you read a Darcy love interest before you get tired? Because enemies to lovers does have toxicity, you have to admit, and where friends to lovers doesn't. So,
I mean, both could have toxicity. It depends on how you frame them. Like if one friend was pushing their crush on the other one and the other one wasn't there for it, that's toxic. But also the good thing about enemies to lovers is you have to develop that relationship. You have to earn that person's trust, because you are so polarized from the beginning that once you get to the point where you guys have trust and respect for each other, it's so much more earned than when you already started off with that point. That's a little bit more boring to read.
But you're assuming that they didn't build the friendship. The friendship has to be built as well. Any relationship has to be built. So they do have to come to become friends before they become lovers. And that is the same thing that will happen from enemies to lovers. I like both, so.
Same. And I don't like being mean to you, Nafiza. Let's just get along.
I loved the tension between you two. Like, you really tried. And I think that's all that matters.
Tash is like, it's debate club. Yeah, I mean.
So in the audience, who do you think won this debate? Who do you think had the most valid points? Who do you think just really nailed whichever? So either made you, like, convinced you that friends to lovers is the best or enemies to lovers is the best. Sukmani will go through this with the audience while we come back from a short break.
I love you, Nafiza. I love you
I love
too.
you. I mean, it's just debate club.
Mhm.
Hello, friends. I'm back. So they are going to go through the next one, which is, oh my gosh, great question actually to myself. Which one is the next one? I believe it is the topic of no love triangle versus yes love triangle. Oh my goodness, this is going to be a hot topic. Let me quickly do our poll. And I'm so scared for this one. Enjoy. Do let me know which one you prefer, everyone. No love triangle or yes love triangle? Oh, okay. This is actually a really close one. Oh my. I'll give it another couple minutes. We have them in there for about 1 minute. Personally, I'm not a fan of the love triangle, not because it's been overused. I think it's just like, it's a lot. Like, I prefer to focus on one relationship. I think I just get really invested myself. I'm like, I can't do this anymore. I can't fight myself because one of the most famous ones that always comes to mind is like the Vampire Diaries. Probably because I'm rewatching that show right now, but Elena and Damon, hello. Anybody else have any love triangle? Actually, that one I actually really like that one, but Twilight, yes. I always feel bad for the one who loses too. And Brittany, yeah, it's the escape. Definitely. Twilight was a really famous one until they pulled out some twist stuff that was not. Throne of Glass, that was like 20 different triangles, and I loved each and every one. Thank you. Yeah. You know what? Interestingly enough, I actually didn't I haven't read the Clockwork Angel series yet. Oh my gosh, I'm the worst. Here are the results of No Love Triangle. Once again, I'm so glad that we're all on the same page. I haven't read Clockwork Angel, but I think I should. Thanks for that recommendation. Throne of Glass. Sorry, now I'm thinking about Throne of Glass and like everything we went through over the course of that one series. It was a lot. And you know what? Before I get really into it, it's time to bring them back, and let's hope they come back faster this time and not get extra time to plan out their arguments. I'm really excited for this one though, like really excited for this one. To love triangle or to not love triangle? Has Shakespeare ever done a love triangle? Hi everyone. Welcome back. Tash is always the first one back. I love it. Awesome. Once again, Team Blue. Good old Team Blue. We also have audience results from the poll that we will share towards the end of the panel, and you can see how they all, but you can also see in their comments as well. So.
All right. Very excited. And so as a reminder for everybody, this next topic is, do we like a love triangle or no love triangle? What do we prefer? A love triangle versus no love triangle. And
okay, guys.
Team Red is Sabina and Sarah. They're going to be representing Team Red for our side of the argument.
Mm-hmm. And we got Blue, which is the love triangles. So we have Lynn and Rhiannon doing love triangles, and then Red doing no love triangles. So I think Rebecca started last time, so we can do Lynn, do you want to start this one?
I will. And I feel like the argument for a love triangle is kind of similar to what Rebecca said about enemies to lover. There is so much chemistry and engagement for readers when you are reading a book and you are single-handedly diving in there and choosing which one you want. I mean, we were talking about famous love triangles, and of course there's Twilight, and there's, Shadow and Bone. And you think about, the people who want the Darkling, and it's, oh, the Darkling, the bad guy. But then there's also the other guy whose name I can't remember, because clearly I'm Team Darkling all the way.
Mal.
But
Mal.
Go ahead. Mal, thank you, Mal. But I think it's a lot of the same thing about enemies to lover, where there's so much chemistry and excitement involved in the love triangle if it's well written. I feel like I need to add that disclaimer, because a lot of times you read a love triangle and the whole time everybody's like, no, we hate that guy, we only want this guy, and it's thrown in there superfluously just for an add-on conflict. But if you're reading it well, I feel like love triangle is the way to go. Sorry, I rambled on and on.
No, it's totally fine. Rhiannon, do you have anything you want to add to Lynn's argument?
So like building off of the Twilight point, like one thing that we talked about is how like that whole like the fan culture around love triangles where everybody can pick a side, that can be very engaging. And then also like I think the fact that you end up developing, like when it's well done, like Lynn said, like you do end up developing two romances that are kind of running parallel, and that can be really fun to play around with. And also just like readers are going to like figure out which one they like more. And I think if both of them carry equal weight, it does create kind of the opportunity for a plot twist when, the main character ultimately figures out which one they want to be with. And just like that saucy tension of like, they're with this person and then they're spending time with this person, and like, what is good about both relationships, what's bad about both relationships. Like, that's just something that's really fun to get into that you don't get if you're not doing a love triangle. You just get the one relationship and the problems of that relationship. And, it's just very singular. So there we go.
Okay.
Material.
Those are some great points. Blue team's doing pretty good, if I do say so myself. But we do have Sabina and Sarah. So if Sabina wants to start off.
Sure. So I mean, I like the occasional love triangle enough, but I just feel going into a story which has a love triangle, I know that there's going to be heartbreak for one person at least, that, somebody's going to end up being really sad. And that just kind of, it's like, you know that there's going to be one couple that's happy and then somebody who's just left out in the cold. And that just makes me sad from the beginning before I even start reading. So so for me, that's one of the big reasons that I don't like love triangles. Sarah, what about you?
So I will say it is only saucy tension if it's actually saucy tension, which a lot of the times in love triangles, it's very clear. We all know Bella's not going to end up with Jacob. We all know it. He's just thrown in there as a plot device to make things complicated. We all know it. And what's his name? Oh my gosh, I'm blanking on his name. Peter Kavinsky, Lara Jean, the other guy who I was rooting for, even though I knew in my heart that Lara Jean was not going to choose him. So these guys or girls or people just thrown in there as plot devices for love triangles, when really author has no intention of putting them with the other person. We all know it. I think I also would like to point out that Team Blue heavily relies on if it's written well. So I think that's more of a testament to good writers versus the trope in and of itself being fantastic, because the trope in and of itself is flawed in many ways and is often used as like an external problem. Rebecca on my team made a great point that it can be perhaps lazy writing, like instead of a problem within the couple themselves, like an internal thing that's between them that they have to figure out. It's like this external thing that writer just throws in there to try to make it saucy, but we all know what they're trying to do. We all see through that. So I feel like that's something to keep in mind against love triangles. And lastly, Tash and Rebecca also made a great point. What about thruples? What if they're all just dating? What about polyamorous couples? Sorry, not couples, those two, polyamorous relationships. So we just feel like love triangles, I don't know. If it's an excellent writer who pulls it off well, I feel like that's a testament more to excellent writers than it is to this trope being the winner.
Wow, those are some great points. I loved it. Nafiza had made a good point about having like the main character make her own choices instead of having, let me like having a partner foisted upon them by the writer. Which is a great point as well. I do think this is a great topic. I think written well is kind of what it is for all of the tropes, for all the things: enemies to lovers, friends to lovers, love triangles, likable, unlikable characters. So yeah, does Yaunna have anything she wants to add?
I was gonna say my team, we talked a little bit about how like love triangles, it can be so overused, and again it can just be used as like a device to like throw some sort of extra conflict in without finding other ways to add that roadblock or add that tension between characters and tension in the story. So again, that goes back to what we were all talking about and saying about, if it's written well, then it can work. Or, we also need to be careful with certain tropes, especially now with things getting overused. And yes, and Sabina had a very good point, I think, about, someone always ends up hurt in love triangles. Poor Jacob.
I think the point is to have a little bit of heartbreak, like a little bit of, tension, a little bit of emotions. Roller coaster of emotions are like where it's at. For me personally, I love crying in a good book. So
Nafiza. She just said in the chat, poor Jacob until he imprinted. Yes, that was very odd choice by Stephanie Meyer. We all know that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Moving on.
So Sukhmani will break us out one more time. All right, great.
Have fun. Hello, friends. Once again, I hope you're not tired of me. We have one last round. It is the unlikable unlikable protagonist versus the likable protagonist. I think we've all come across various books, and it's kind of subjective, but I do think we all have our own thoughts. I can think of quite a few actually where I was just so done with the protagonist, and I was like, you know what? I actually don't care what happens to you in the end anymore. But do let us know in that poll or in the chat as well. I think we all do prefer the likable protagonist, don't we? I will say though, even if I don't like them, sometimes I feel like then they make the supporting characters so strong that I will read the book just for them. I mean, I kind of wish that they were the protagonist, but at the same time, it keeps you going. So majority that voted definitely voted for the likable protagonist. I agree. And you all can see for yourself. Incredible. There is someone who did go for the unlikable protagonist. I see you, and I kind of agree. I think I'm actually 50-50. I will put out a question to you all right now, though. What is the most recent book you read that contained an unlikable protagonist? It can even be from like a few years ago, but like most recently, which you have to fill out the title, but you can just like describe it if you'd rather as well. I'm very curious. Nothing. No one. All good. Mine is from Sherry. Oh, I hope I got your name right. Just please let me know if it wasn't. I will correct it immediately. The unlikable works for me when the voice is compelling, and that's a testament to the skill of the author. So like all options, it works if it's done well. Oh, perfect. Thank you. I'm glad that I got it right. I agree 100%. Actually, yeah, if the unlikable protagonist is done well, yeah, it can actually work really well. And actually, our authors will be back any second now. Exciting. I think they're all really taking. Welcome back. Welcome back. Our audience overwhelmingly decided in favor of one over the other, overwhelmingly this time. So good luck to everyone.
I think that Team Red should win by default because we kept coming back each time first.
Okay, I think we talked as a group and you guys won that round specifically. You have made some valid points, and we will hand it to the red team for the second round. The first one, I don't know. I don't know what Sukhmani and the audience decided about the first round. It was pretty close.
But we'll talk about that after. All right. So, as a reminder, this last one is likable versus unlikable characters. And so Team Red has the side of unlikable, and Tash is going to be debating that for us.
And so it's Team Blue has likable main characters, and we have the amazing June who will lead for our team. So I think we started last time, so we can have Tash take it today.
Okay. So the question that my argument is based around is liked by who? Is it the patriarchy? Is it the history of unlikable women because they're strong and have masculine traits or don't know how to sew? Is it a history of people of color being unrelated to by white supremacist people who are in charge of all of the awards and everything? Who are they liked by? If we're talking about like genuinely unlikable, like horrible people, horrible characters, they can be really interesting to read to try and find their perspective, to get to know them in a different way, because it might be so outside of your emotions and experiences. So that can be way more engaging than someone who is just a likable character. And so much of the time with our likable characters, our Percy Jacksons, our Harry Potters, they're just white bread pieces of toast, soggily walking along, not observing anything around them, completely supported by their cast who are like keeping them alive at every turn. But we like them because they're kind of soft and dumb. And that concludes my argument.
I just want to take a shout out, like the passion was amazing. I know I'm the opposing team and I'm not supposed to be. I'm just gonna appreciate the passion.
Tash.
Yes.
Passion.
Okay.
They're passionate.
June will win it for the blue team with her argument. So let's hear from June.
Okay, so I totally agree with what you said, Tash, but I'd also like to argue that so especially when it comes to how female identifying characters are portrayed in novels, like I definitely agree that people saying, oh, we want a likable heroine, that can be problematic because a lot of times women aren't given the room to be unlikable. But my spin on the term likable is more like is more akin to the word relatable, and just relatable to the common audience, common reader. And I think when it comes to a really good book, in our team's opinion, it requires full immersion in the story. And when we're unable to relate to a character, and I think, considering the diversity of all characters, I think, at the core, we are all humans. We share very human traits. And so I think when an author is able to really bring a character to life, they become relatable. And I think a lot of times that's the goal of a novel, whether they start off unlikable, the goal is to come to understand them and relate to them by the end of the book. And so, yes, my argument is that likability means being able to relate to them and understand them and empathize with their decisions, whether it's a bad decision or a good decision by the end of the book. Yes, that is all.
Okay. I feel like both people did great. I don't know who won, but that's definitely for the audience to decide. Everybody had such great points today, and I loved the passion that everybody brought towards the table. I don't know about the red team, but I know like our team, like behind the scenes in our breakout room, we are very excited and motivated throughout the whole thing. But yes, so that is the tropes we have for the individual authors, and like going through, I feel like I can see a lot of people taking sides. I do believe that likable and relatable are equivalent. I don't think we are changing the questions as an invasive maneuver.
As the organizer, I feel that you should have thought that previously and said what you meant. Words have power, Chris.
It does have powers, but I'm also very competitive.
I'm not at all.
Yes, no. So I think, what are all your thoughts on like any of the questions? So are there enemies to lovers? No triangles versus triangles, likable, unlikable. Let's hear it from everybody who has an opinion, who wants to defend any points.
I'd like to make a point about unlikability, because as authors, especially as POC authors, we have often been told that our characters are not relatable. So the whole unlikable characters is just makes me uncomfortable, because, as Tash said, who are they likable for? Who is judging their likability? As writers, we seek to write with verisimilitude. We seek to write stories that speak to our target audience, and that might mean that the decisions our characters make are not going to be understood or be relatable to people who don't come from the culture or from the audience that we are targeting our books for. So I feel like to be a devil's advocate, I am not very comfortable with the question like unlikable versus likable. Should be relatable versus unrelatable.
I think that's great, honestly. And I think like it is a whole question on who is deciding this. As authors, like how do you guys kind of tailor your characters on whether it's likable or not likable? And like how do you do like majority? Like how do you know like, okay, this is gonna be a likable person for the majority? Or like do you guys not think of that when you guys are writing? I see Tash struggling. No?
I don't think it's ever something that I actively think about, because like I don't necessarily write stories with the intent of like having my readers kind of struggle with relating to my characters. But like I just remember like when I was in high school and we were reading Catcher in the Rye, like my teacher was like, he's an unlikable character. Like, what do you guys think about that? And like when I got older, I was like, well, no, he's like a character who's struggling, and that's like I know that when the book was written, it was like progressive, and like he was a character that everybody was like, oh, he's a bad person, all this controversy, but like he's struggling, and the whole point of that story is that you grow to relate to him. And I think that's like a good example of how like in the books that we write, who is deciding whether or not they're likable, because he's just depressed. And that's not something to necessarily be disliked. That's something that we are going to understand through reading that story.
And I also think when we're like as authors, when we are writing, at least just for me personally, I'm more interested in what the character is feeling and how they're reacting to things that are happening around them, rather than necessarily how the reader will interpret their reactions and responses. Because I mean, nobody's likable all the time. Nobody is going to, nobody's going to like somebody all the time or hate them all the time, unless they're like pure evil or whatever. But just a regular person does bad things and does good things, and we're all like a little bit of everything. And so I just think it's really hard to. I would feel it kind of that I was kind of. It would feel unnatural to me to write a likable character, like, and again, like what Tash said and Nafiza said, who is judging this likability? Like, who are we basing it on, right? So I think if we start worrying about that as we write, I think it's not going to be helpful to us at all to write with that in mind.
Also, I feel like the characters we write are products of their landscape, of the environment around which they grow. So if we were to, make a character who was abused, because our main characters always have to go through so many things that we as authors put them through. So if we make them, if we make someone who has been abused, who hasn't had anyone speaking to them or loving them, make them be, like candy, it's not going to work. So so it's rather than being likable, we just have characters whose experiences other people might be able to empathize with, and so read their stories.
Some of my sorry.
No, you go ahead.
Favorite characters are those who may seem unlikable based on the decisions they make, and yet where I'm able to really understand and empathize with them. So I feel like it's not just like a black and white, like unlikable, likable. It's very, like, I think when written well, like an author can create both emotions within a reader.
I was going to say too, I am aware of creating empathy in the readers who have no understanding what my character is going through when I'm writing. For instance, being a fat girl and writing fat characters, a lot of people are very uncomfortable with the word fat or the concept of a fat person embracing their bodies. So I have to be really, like, I've learned from past critiques and people saying this is too much pro-fatness, how to show my characters realities with this world without like telling the reader. So like doing the, like, instead of saying my character has a really hard time finding fashion, you see the character like going to the seamstress and getting this amazing jacket they found that doesn't fit them, made to their size and things like that. So that readers who really have no concept of what it's like to be fat or disabled or whatever can sort of see through the characters' interactions a little bit and hopefully emphasize with them, because maybe they won't understand what that's like to not fit clothes, but maybe they'll understand what's like not to afford clothes or something, or they'll start seeing the world a little bit bigger than their worldview.
Well, the bottom line is just like every character has different motivations and you like different characters, all readers have different motivations and like different things. I had something I wrote, and they tell you not to read reviews, but of course you do. And there's a character who's a hot mess who makes terrible decisions. And you get feedback from people are like, oh, I love her. I could so relate to that. And then I got one who's like, oh my gosh, I could not finish. She's obnoxious. She's the worst house guest ever. And I'm reading this review and I'm like, that's actually all true. She is. But if you can relate to that type of character, you're like, oh, I totally feel her, blah, blah, blah. And then other people are like, that is horrifying. So I don't think, like Sabina said, I don't think you can be ever consciously thinking about what you want your readers to think of a character, because they all have different opinions. I mean, everybody's different. Every character's different.
Yeah, I totally agree with what Lynn said. Like, I wrote my main character and I love her. And I never even for a second thought that she like could be unlikable. But I've also seen a lot of reviews where they're like, man, she was so unlikable. Like, it was just really difficult. And I was like, wow, it actually didn't even occur to me that was a thing. But I think I totally agree that there were people that really resonated with her and people that really did not. And that's just how it's going to be, because everyone's different. So I think I totally agree with what Sabina said as well around like, we can't write characters thinking like, oh, like how can I make them the most likable to the most people in the world? Like that just, I think, kind of creates like, unless you're creating like a very people pleasing character, I guess. But I think that, and at the end of the day, you have to stay true to who that character is, and people will interpret them how they will.
I think these are all great points. Yaunna, do you have anything to say?
I was gonna say, yeah, that was a really great point, Sarah, and I think it really like hinders creativity when authors have people in their head, or readers or reviewers in their head. And as as a writer myself, and as someone that has writers in my family and authors in my family, like I totally understand how reviews impact them, right? Like you'll see a review and read it, and then you're going on to write the next book and you're like, okay, wait, what? Like now I need to think about, no, get that out of your head. Like you need to write because for your characters and for you and for your story and the story that you want to tell. And and it can be so like subjective, right? Like you were saying, Sarah, you thought that your character, you didn't even think that people would say, oh, she's unlikable, but who's to say? Like, it's so subjective.
No, I think I loved all the topics we brought up and like some of the points, and I loved Rebecca's point of like seeing the character through their eyes, like a lens. It's such a great way to get people to be a part of this character's life and understand them without having to like break it down and like like they're living through this person's shoes basically, instead of reading kind of what it is and not being able to empathize or sympathize. I think everybody did such a good job. I'm so happy with how this panel turned out. I wasn't sure how we were going to do it with so many authors and so many opinions and so many topics, but I'm glad we pulled it off. Great. I think there's a poll that Sukhmani has put together on winners of this.
So which team won?
Of this debate. Oh, so everybody can vote on who you think won today. And no bias. And yes, so I think we will soon get the poll results.
Everybody vote.
I think somebody in the group chat said earlier that there has to be a winner because it's a debate club.
Yes, that was Tash.
Tash.
They are right. We have to have a winner.
I was at least 50% kidding, though. We're all winners here.
Yes, everybody could get a participation.
Should I review the sides that everybody was on? Sherry said, don't remember which team is on which side. Okay, so Team Red argued for enemies to lovers, argued against love triangles, and argued for unlikable characters.
Yeah, so blue team, we're friends to lovers, we are love triangles, and we are likable main characters. So
yeah, like the end of Apples to Apples when you read all the things you are. We are.
Yes. But
okay. Yeah, sorry. Thanks, Crystal. Sorry for interrupting. We got our results back. It was actually really, really close. Like to the point where I was like, oh my God. So here we go.
Oh,
I mean, it makes sense now because you guys got topics that I actually believed in. So.
Blah, blah, blah.
Thank you, Team Red.
I think several members of Team Blue
high five, Team Red.
A little bit during discussion.
We still love you, Team Blue.
All in good fun.
All in good fun. I think there was like Red team did do a good, like a good attempt. No, everybody did amazing. I'm so proud of everybody. I'm so proud of the red team and the blue team, and I'm just so happy to be a part of something so great. And hopefully I see everybody next year at our Infusion 2022 event. I have not confirmed. I think there's a 22 event.
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
That is the goal. And hopefully, who knows? These past 2 years have been insane, but hopefully the next little bit will be better. Fingers crossed.
Yes. Everybody stay safe. All the monsoons and floodings and whatever's happening with the weather wherever you are. Hope everything's doing good. So, Sukhmani, do you want to take this away?
Yeah, for sure. Yes. Like Crystal and Yaunna said, thank you all so much for joining us today. This is our final panel, one of the most epic panels I've ever had the pleasure of bearing witness to. Thank you everyone for taking time out of your day and joining us. Sorry, I'm just like overwhelmed with so many like arguments. I'm like, oh my gosh, do we even believe in like enemies to lovers anymore? Thank you all so much. Before everyone heads out, I just really wanted to give a quick shout out to our amazing panelists. You can find all their gorgeous creations at your local indie bookstore. If you're in the western side of Canada, you can definitely check out Massey Books as well as Iron Dog Books. I do believe Massey Books does ship out across the country, but just double check. Also, for anyone anywhere, do check out your local library. They're a beautiful community source and hub. They have some incredible resources available to you as both a reader and writer. And if you are wanting to find any of our beautiful panels, beautiful books, you can definitely, if they don't have it in stock, you can actually request and they will order it in for you, which is epic. Sorry, I just saw which we rewrote. So who needs to now write a friends to lover triangle with the unrelatable protagonist?
mean, romance is hard to write.
It's a challenge.
I'm a sucker for romance. I love romance, like the cheesy, sappy, disgustingly sweet romances are my
Yeah.
thing.
Totally.
I love that, and I hope we'll see it one day soon. I hope. But thank you all so much for taking the time. Have a beautiful, beautiful. Thank you so much, Sabina. Have a beautiful Saturday, and we'll see you all one day soon. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Bye. Thank you.
Like our moderator Yaunna and team members said, you can find the authors on their social media and check out their websites as well. They will have all the latest details on their upcoming books. We'll see you all soon. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Cheers, one and all.